right, so welcome everybody to the info session today, Build Capacity and Become an AmeriCorps Project Host. My name is Sarah Bromley. I'm the Director of HR and Shared Services at United Way of Larimer County, and I've been here for about 6 years, and I specialize in project management, human resources, and board development. I almost have a decade of nonprofit experience, and during this time, I've worked with 6 different AmeriCorps programs throughout the United States. And I previously managed our Colorado Reading Corps program with United Way of Larimer County. As a previous AmeriCorps member myself, I'm excited to have Azia here today to talk to you a little bit about the NoCO AmeriCorps project and how we've worked together with Weld to create this hub for Larimer County and Weld County. And first, though, I'd like to briefly talk a little bit about our shared services program, and then I will talk a little bit about the partnership with Weld. So we have a program called Shared Services, and this is one of our nonprofit excellence programs, along with some education and training that we provide. With Shared Services, we offer back office services and functions at a below market rate. United Way of Larimer County subsidizes a portion of the total cost of the program and provides nonprofits in the community with experts in different functional areas such as graphic design, grant writing, human resources, and now we're happy to say that we've, like I said, joined forces with United Way of Weld County to create the NoCO AmeriCorps Hub. If you want to learn more about the Shared Services program and you want to participate in the program, we'd love for you to join. We'd love for you to learn more. Definitely reach out to me at UWAYLC.org. I'd say probably 6 months to a year ago, I had been working with Azia and some people at United Way of Weld County, and they had already had a Vista hub, and we had been looking to do the same here in Larimer County, and we felt like, why would we recreate the wheel when they were already doing such a great job? And so we looked into what their practices were and their structure, and we felt like they had something really great in place. And they were in a good spot to be able to expand into Larimer County and offer it to our nonprofits in the community. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Azia Gilbert, who is the Vista AmeriCorps Coordinator at United Way of Weld County. But before I do the introduction, I did want to do a quick poll and just kind of gauge everyone's knowledge about AmeriCorps and their participation with AmeriCorps. So Morgan, do you think you can pull that up? All right, so this is the poll. Has your organization hosted AmeriCorps members before? So you can click yes, no, or not sure. Morgan, are you able to share when that's complete?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thanks. All right. Oh, it looks like 33% has hosted an AmeriCorps member before. So that's great. So we have some newbies too, and some people who aren't quite sure yet, but I think you'll have a better idea of how to do it and what's to know after Azia gets done with her presentation. But I'm going to introduce her real briefly here. So Azia, as I mentioned, is the Vista Coordinator at United Way of Weld County. Combating poverty has always been important to Azia. As an undergraduate, she majored in English and Women and Gender Studies at the University of Southern Maine, where she learned about the ways that systematic inequalities are reproduced. She completed 2 terms of service in AmeriCorps Poverty Elimination Focused Vista program, overhauling the volunteer program for Portland Housing Authority's multicultural study centers and supporting United Way of Weld County's Vista program as a Vista leader. Other notable work in the area includes the funding of an on-campus food pantry at the University of Southern Maine, grant writing and programmatic support for Portland Housing Authority's resident services, and coordination of the America Reads work study program at University of Southern Maine. Azia is excited by the opportunity her role as the NoCO AmeriCorps Project Coordinator affords her to impact poverty on a broad scale, connecting agencies already engaged in combating poverty with full-time service members dedicated to building capacity for that work. Thanks, Azia, for being here, and I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If everyone will bear with me for just one moment, I will share my screen. Sorry, there are too many options here. Okay. And I can't really, it looks like we have, okay, we have a question, but I'll address that a little bit later. So thank you all for being here today. As Sarah said, I'm here to talk about the opportunity for you to host AmeriCorps members through the NoCO AmeriCorps Project. I want to apologize. I am going to be looking kind of this way at my screen. It's not because I'm not paying attention, it's because that's where my slideshow is. So to get started, I'll tell you a little bit about the NoCO AmeriCorps project. As Sarah said, it is a collaborative effort between United Way of Larimer County and United Way of Weld County, and it helps organizations in Northern Colorado to build capacity for their anti-poverty work. It's a pretty new partnership, and we're just really excited to be able to extend our anti-poverty supports into Larimer County. Most people hopefully have heard of AmeriCorps before, but for those of you who don't know, they're the federal agency that brings people together to tackle the country's most pressing challenges through national service and volunteering. And there are a lot of different areas of AmeriCorps, but the one that we are talking about today and able to offer is AmeriCorps' VISTA program. The VISTA program has 4 key principles. Those are ending poverty, empowering communities, building capacity, and creating sustainable solutions. We'll talk about a lot of those over the course of the presentation today, so you can really understand what this has to do with your organization and how we can work on these goals together. Within that, the NoCO AmeriCorps project itself has 3 specific goals that we feel really support the goal or support the core elements of the VISTA project. So improved organizational capacity. We really want the organizations in Northern Colorado to come out of this program with a bigger capacity and a greater capacity to accomplish their goals than they had when they started. We also really want it to be a positive growth experience for the members. People enter AmeriCorps giving up a year of their life to live in poverty in order to combat poverty, and we want this to be a positive experience for them. And then finally, one of the most important goals is persistent poverty is reduced. That is the whole point of the VISTA program, is to combat poverty. And so we really want to make sure that that is a tangible impact of our program. So what does this have to do with you and your organization? Well, my guess is that everybody here is kind of in the same boat, where we all have a lot of big goals and things that we know that we would like to do, but we're all dealing with limited time and resources to make those things happen. I know that many times during my nonprofit career, I've known what I would like to do to have a greater impact on the community that I serve, but I've been so busy putting out the fires that are in front of me that I haven't really had the ability to take on that project and get it to the point where it is doing what I needed to do and at a self-sustaining point. And so that is where our AmeriCorps members through the VISTA program come in, because they are specifically there to build the capacity of your organization in a way that is sustainable, so they can really give you that boost you need to get to the next level where you have accomplished what you want to and it is able to sustain itself. So some examples, you might be looking to improve your reach, to launch a new program. Maybe you want to get more on top of grants to figure out what's out there and establish some repeating elements so that you can get more funding year after year. Or maybe you're just looking to evaluate and improve on what you're already doing. Whatever it is that you're looking to do, if it's building the capacity of your organization in a sustainable way, that is what our members are for. So just a little bit about what the AmeriCorps program that we offer looks like. Our members serve full-time for 1 year, and that is whatever full-time is at your organization. And then when you apply to be a member or to be a host site for our members, if you're approved for 3 years in a row of the project. And so that's really enough time to dig into the goals of what it is that you're trying to accomplish and really build a solid framework to get it off the ground and going, and then to really make it sustainable so that when our member leaves, you will you will be ready to go. It will be able to sustain itself. Our members receive training and guidance from the NoCO AmeriCorps Project, so we really work with them to make sure that they have a good idea of what it is that they're there to do and that they know the steps they need to take and what they need to learn in order to accomplish those goals for your organization. And lastly, they are a very cost-effective way to build capacity for your project. If you think about the cost of having a full-time person who is just dedicated to one project, like that's not something that most organizations can afford to do. We're all wearing a lot of hats, but because AmeriCorps is paying the living allowance to the members, it is a fraction of the cost to you of what a full-time employee would cost, because they're not employees, they are project-based national service members. And then one added benefit that isn't on the slide, but that I like to talk about is that if you do host a full year member with our program, you're able to have summer associate members as well. And these members are not solely focused on capacity building. They can do a lot of direct service. They serve for 8 to 10 weeks in the summer, again, full time. And a lot of people utilize them, or a lot of organizations utilize them for like summer programs and a lot of different things that are very like short-term and high need. You might also be wondering who serves in AmeriCorps. A lot of our members are recent college graduates, and they are coming to you with the most up-to-date knowledge in the fields that they have studied. And a lot of them are just looking for a chance to really grow the experience that they have and the skills that they have into something that is going to take them where they want to be in the future. There are also skilled professionals and retirees who are bringing a whole career's worth of knowledge and experience to your position. Our members can be local, and we're trying to get more local members because it's a really great workforce development opportunity for the local community. But a lot of them are also from out of state, and they're just really interested in exploring what Colorado has to offer. And then the thing that all of the members have in common is that they are really excited to contribute to your organization. They apply for specific roles. They don't just apply to our program. And so you know that if they're at your organization, it's because that's where they want to be and they are passionate about the work that you are doing. So our program started in 2007. It had a slightly different focus back then. It was very youth oriented and it was only in Weld County. But since then, we have really grown the ways that we fight poverty, and we are now also growing our service area to include Larimer County. And so as you can see, kind of looking at just like a random example of sites that we have worked with, there are a lot of different sorts of organizations that we are able to lend our services to. During the time that our program has been running within Weld County, we've had a huge impact on the community. Over 200 individuals have served at over 50 host sites. Over $6 million in cash and in-kind resources have been generated, and over 77,000 volunteers have been mobilized. So if you think about those numbers, they're big numbers and they look good on paper, but that's not the primary thing that our members do. Like, yes, they can absolutely raise money for you. Yes, they can absolutely do volunteer coordination, and we love to see both of those things, but they can also really build out the structures of your programs and help to take you to the next level in a way that is a little bit less easily measured. And so we just have one testimonial from a host site supervisor. They're on their second 3-year set of AmeriCorps members. This is Eileen Biscard from Bridget Bounty Community Resources. When they first began working with our AmeriCorps project, they were just like a very small volunteer-run garden. And they were giving away food, but not nearly as much as they are now. They've recently been able to hire a full-time staff person, and they have summer camps that are run by our summer associate members. And so we didn't just, we didn't just raise a little bit of money for them. We have helped them to get to a place where they are sustainably able to, operate their organization at a higher level. Right now, the member who is finishing up with them is a recent business school graduate, and she's really been able to look at their retail offerings and to help them to figure out how to manage those and keep them, operating in a way that is going to be making them more money. And she's also written a lot of grants. They were able to get a greenhouse with one of the grants, which is going to enable them to give food away year-round. So you might be wondering, what can the members do for your organization? That is a big question. There are a lot of different things that they can do. So some of the areas that they work in are marketing and outreach, coordinating and mobilizing volunteers, resource development, and program development. And within all of these areas, we really want them to be working on things that are going to be sustainable for your organization. So what does sustainability mean? Sustainability means that after the member leaves your organization, the work that they've done should continue to benefit the organization. So I have a few examples here. Instead of just planning and running an event, try to think of having them create templates, timelines, and reusable marketing materials so that that event can go smoothly every year onward, and that work can continue without having to duplicate the effort. Sorry, my nose got really itchy. Instead of just coordinating volunteers, have them create volunteer policies. When I was at Portland Housing Authority as a VISTA member, they had 4 different study centers, and they were all kind of treating their volunteers a different way. And so I really worked to standardize the procedures between the 4 centers, and I wrote a policy manual. I made standardized trainings and onboarding processes so that it was one centralized volunteer program rather than just a lot of people doing their own thing. So yeah, those are all examples of how you can sustainably work with volunteers rather than just bringing volunteers in to meet the needs in the moment. And then finally, instead of just writing grant applications, they could draft reusable grant elements, research new funding opportunities, and create a calendar of grant opportunities with timelines for when you might want to have certain pieces of the application completed. Who is eligible to host the AmeriCorps members? They can be nonprofits or government agencies. Federal agencies can't host, but state and local government can. And you have to be able to have a capacity building project that they're going to be working on. They shouldn't be doing something where they are primarily doing direct service, such as being a tutor within a tutoring program. There are other AmeriCorps programs that are more suited for that. You need to have supervisory capability. As I said, they will be with you full time for a year. And so you need to be able to have a project in mind and be able to guide them through that project and keep an eye on it and, be the person who's ultimately in charge of that. Or not you personally, but somebody at your organization. And your organization needs to be contributing in the fight against poverty. We will go into the specific ways that you are able to contribute in the fight against poverty and have that really work with AmeriCorps performance measures shortly. But I would like to say, if you feel like you're interested, but you're just not quite sure how you stack up in any of these categories, please ask me, because I would much rather, have that conversation than have you just assume that you don't qualify and then never apply when maybe you could have hosted a member. So yeah, now I'm going to get a little bit more into the anti-poverty focus areas that AmeriCorps really wants the VISTA program to be focusing on. Oops, I should give you the overview that I had on this slide. So the 3 areas that our specific project focuses on are economic opportunity, education, and healthy futures. And so I'm just going to give you a few examples of what sorts of outcomes we are looking for in each of these areas for our host project. So economic opportunity, you could be working on financial literacy. They like to hear about tax returns generated. Housing services and development are very strong priorities for AmeriCorps, and then also job readiness and placement. Some examples of this are Housing Navigation Center at United Way of Weld County falls under economic opportunity because they help people to get housing, and there's also financial literacy programming going on there. Education, so things like school readiness, academic and behavioral interventions for youth, aspirational supports for post-secondary education and training, and also post-secondary success. So as you can see, it's a broad span of education. It starts before kindergarten and it goes through post-secondary education. So if there's anything that you are doing where you are improving outcomes for students or improving the ability of people to be able to pursue education, probably we have a performance measure that would fit you. And finally, healthy futures. And this has a lot to do with increasing food security or nutrition education. Improving medical access, including ride programs. We worked with 60 Plus Ride back when they were Senior Resource Services. I think they still are, but they're operating a 60 Plus Ride, but I'm getting in the weeds. They provide transportation for older adults, and so that is increasing medical access, so that can fall under Healthy Futures. Health education and coaching could qualify, and also medical services. One of the outcomes is improving health, and so that's very broad, and if you can measure how you're doing that, then we are able to work with you on a program that would support that. So yeah, hopefully you've been listening to this and you're thinking, yes, we could use a member, yes, we would qualify for a member, but what does this cost? So there is an administrative fee, and the administrative fee, it does a couple of things. It helps to pay for the cost of administering the program in terms of like my time, the supplies, any trainings that we do, and things like that. And then also the living allowance for some of the members, we have to pay for that, so it covers that as well. So basically it helps to cover the cost of the program. And again, if you think about what it would cost to hire somebody full-time to work on these projects, both of these numbers are very reasonable in comparison. So we have two different tiers depending on the size of your organization's budget. For organizations with a budget of $500,000 and above, the administrative fee is $11,700. And for organizations with budgets below $500,000, it's only $9,600. We collect this in 2 installments, and if you need us to split it up more, we are definitely happy to do so. That's a conversation that we can have. There are also some indirect costs. As I said, you do need to have a full-time supervisor. There will have to be office space and supplies. They need to have their own dedicated workstation because they are going to be there 40 hours a week, or 37 if that's what you do. And so it's not like sharing a computer is really going to work. You need to reimburse them for mileage and any expenses you ask them to incur, such as like purchasing food for an event or something like that. So just like, you know, like you would anybody, you reimburse those expenses. And then also you need to have $500 on hand to loan to them in case of an emergency. Again, this is a loan, a zero interest loan, so it's not something that will, you know, ultimately be an expense, but you need to have it available. And the reason for this is because, as I said, they do live at the poverty level when they're in AmeriCorps. And hopefully as organizations who are combating poverty, you understand that when you are at the poverty level, like a small thing can be catastrophic. So like if a car breaks down and they don't have money to repair it, that could make it so that they can no longer serve. And we really don't want that to be a barrier. So that's why we ask you to have this $500. So if you are interested in applying, there are some things that come next. And then after I tell you like just this brief overview of what that process looks like, I'm going to check in with the questions, I think. And then also after that, I'll go through the application process in more detail so that if you are planning to apply, you kind of have like a leg up in terms of knowing what that process looks like and how to navigate the application, which is, it's not super difficult, but there is some terminology that it's better if I can explain it to you. So yeah, if you're interested in applying, please get in touch with me and we can kind of talk about what that's going to look like. My contact information is here and it will also be in the email sent out after this presentation. The application is due by September 1st and it includes a project and supervision plan as well as an organizational budget. Once your application is accepted, we will sign an MOU and begin a United Way supported recruitment process. I won't get too deep into recruitment, but basically we do the outreach and the posting of the positions, and then we screen the applicants, and then you have final say. You do a second interview, and you really get to decide who you would like to offer the position to, because we do really want it to be something that would work for your organization. And I wish I had said this much earlier in the presentation, I apologize, but new members will begin service in spring or summer of 2022. The whole process of applying, modifying the grant, and then recruiting takes a really long time. So it might seem funny to be starting a full year in advance, but it actually takes that much time. So that said, I am going to jump in with the questions. Or Morgan, would you be able to read the questions to me? That way everybody can kind of hear what is going on.
Yes, absolutely. Asia, Sylvia has a question. The organization that they're representing does not have its own 501c3 status, but rather operates as a fiscal agent under another 501c3's umbrella. Does that make us ineligible for AmeriCorps?
So I would have to check with my portfolio manager. I contacted AmeriCorps about this, but my intuition says that the fiscal sponsor.
I think we froze. Yeah, we're getting a comment that we lost Asia's audio. Yeah. I'll try to answer a few of the other questions. So let me just pull up my screen.
Wonderful. All right. So Asia was in the middle of answering this question around a fiscal agent. Sarah, do you know the answer to that question?
Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that question, but we can follow up through an email. And we are actually planning on sending an email to everyone after the presentation within the next day or so, just to recap what we talked about, provide more information about next steps, and then also share a little bit more about our nonprofit excellence programming. So we can definitely follow up with that question in the email as well.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. And another question here from Gail, who's asking, is this program only for poverty projects?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the main focuses are capacity building and poverty alleviation. And I think she kind of touched on this already, but you know, with the project that you choose, if there is a poverty alleviation aspect to the project, that is preferred. I would encourage everyone to really connect with Asia and have a one-on-one meeting to talk about their ideas and the project that they have in mind. She will be able to really identify if it's a good fit for Vista or not, or for AmeriCorps Vista. But yes, typically they do have a focus in the poverty alleviation.
Perfect. And one from Susan here. Would you be able to describe what a typical Vista member looks like in terms of experience, skills, or expectations?
Yeah, so with AmeriCorps, as Asia mentioned, a lot of AmeriCorps members are right out of college. That's not always the case, but I'd say it's typically the case. They are typically wanting to get their foot in the door in nonprofit organizations, and this project-based capacity building work helps them to give their resume more breadth and depth. And so, oh, it looks like Asia's coming back. And so I think when they come in, this is a great opportunity for them. They can really focus on a project in your organization. And then just in terms of their skills and expectations, it could be somebody who's retired. Is that correct, Asia? Oh, you're muted. Oh, Asia, I think you're muted.
Oh, no. Hold on one second.
All right. We got you unmuted now, Asia. You're
okay, awesome.
We were just
I said we lost the internet in my office, so I came back on my phone, so I actually missed that question.
Yep, no, that's fine. Morgan, do you want to just repeat that question?
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah was explaining what a typical Vista member looks like in terms of their experience and skills and expectations for the role.
Yeah, so it can vary quite a lot, but I would say the most typical that we get is somebody who has recently graduated college. A lot of the time they've been very involved in their campus community, doing community service, or like on their sorority, like organizing events and things like that. So a lot of them do have not quite nonprofit experience, but like comparable experience from their school career. We also get, sometimes we get people who are like mid-career looking for a change, or people who have retired and just really want to give back. And so there is a huge variety of kind of starting places that our members come from, and you are able to, they put in their different skills like on their application, and we're able to kind of, when we're screening, sort by the skills that you're looking for and let you know like how likely the people are to match what you're looking for. So ultimately you are able to select somebody who matches what you're looking for. It's just like the more specific you are, the more you have to kind of weed through applicants to get there. Does that sound like it answers the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also answers really well the next question that we have on the list, which is, can you recruit for specific skill sets, such as folks who are bilingual? And it sounds like the answer to that is yes.
Yes.
I do want to also backtrack just a little bit because we lost you right in the middle of when you were answering Sylvia's question about organizations who operate with a fiscal agent.
Yeah. So I guess first I will touch on, there is also a section where you do language requirements. So bilingual is something specifically that you can screen for. And then in terms of having a fiscal agent, if the person who has this question could drop their contact info in the chat, I will get back to them on it. But my intuition is that you would do the application through the fiscal agent and that it would be an extension of that relationship. But I would like to check with my, thank you. I would like to check with my AmeriCorps representative just to make sure that that is correct.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Sylvia, for popping that into the chat there for us. Gail has another question. Could they work from home part of the time?
So during COVID, they've definitely been able to work from home. Ordinarily, it's a little bit more complicated than that. They don't want it to be something that is like the primary way that the member is operating, but there is a form that they can fill out that allows them to work from home occasionally. I think it's like not more than 2 days a week, I'm pretty sure is what it is. And you need to have a little bit of a justification for why that is what works best for your position.
Perfect. And then we have one last question here in the Q&A box. Although folks, if you would like to unmute and ask a question in your own voice, please feel free to use that raise hand button and I can unmute you here in just a moment. But Serena would like to know, if I remember correctly, the stipend to the AmeriCorps Vistas is a little low. Are we able to pay an additional wage or stipend because paying a living wage is a goal for their organization?
So unfortunately, you can't pay an additional wage, but there are some things that you can do. And we actually, as part of our application, we ask whether you plan to offer additional support because that's definitely one of our values. As you saw in our goals, we want them to have a good experience. And so that is very helpful if you do provide additional support. The most beneficial support that tends to be provided is a housing subsidy. So in that case, you would directly pay to the landlord a portion of the member's rent, and that isn't an additional wage, but it effectively like raises their standard of living and bumps it up to a more livable wage. Thank you for that question. That's definitely, like I said, a deep value of ours.
Perfect. And then I see Morgan Benton is raising their hand, so I am going to allow them to talk one moment.
Perfect.
And Morgan, you should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi. So I was actually an AmeriCorps Vista years ago in a different state. And so I have a couple questions as I'm now considering being a managing partner of a Vista. So one being is in nonprofits, everyone wears a lot of hats, right? And so I remember as a Vista, we were doing capacity building and really avoiding direct service. And so I was wondering if when we write the grant and write a job description for a potential AmeriCorps member, if there's like a certain percentage of their time that we can allot them to do direct service. Like, for example, we're a school, and so having them work with students for maybe like 20% of their time, or if it has to be exclusively that back-end capacity building role.
So they are allowed to do a tiny bit of direct service, but it shouldn't be a primary like a primary duty that they have. And ideally it would be in service to their capacity building. And so like, if they were going to be working with students, it should be in a way that is directly informing the capacity that they're building. Like piloting a program, for example, would be a justification for direct service. Or if you're looking to like write policies for a program, spending time in the program would be a justification. But if they are there because you need somebody to be in that program, and if you were to pull them out, you would have to hire somebody else in order to fill that role to get that need met. That is what AmeriCorps does not want you doing. Does that answer the question? I don't know if you're still unmuted or not.
Yeah, that is a great answer. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And I actually have one more, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So I feel like this is like maybe a little bit of a dark note, but when I was a Vista, my site had, I think, like a dozen Vistas all at once. So they're a pretty large site. I just remember a couple members being not as productive or not meeting the standards of that organization, and it being really hard in the organization, having obviously someone in that role that just wasn't getting the job done. And so what does like United Way, or I guess like the AmeriCorps as an organization, do you guys have any supports for a situation like that, or is there a managing member who could come alongside like a host site to help them, I guess, redirect or manage a member that maybe wasn't working out or the best fit for an organization?
Yeah, definitely. Hold on, I'm here twice and I can hear myself. Phone so that I'll be able to share my screen and then I will answer your question. Okay, sorry about that. So there's a couple of answers to your question. We do have Vista leaders who their role is to support the members, and they ideally, like if you were having an issue with the member, you could let me know and then I would get my Vista leaders on top of it, and they would work to coach the member to a place where they were better meeting your needs. There is kind of a conflict resolution process. We really ask that you document the behavior that is problematic, and also document any attempts by you to correct that behavior, whether that be coaching, reaching out to us, having the Vista leader coach. And then if you're still not getting what you need from the member, we can either remove them from service if they really are not a good fit, or we could potentially transfer them to another site and then work on finding a different member to fill that role within your organization. Ultimately, AmeriCorps has the final say on like whether we're able to remove a member from the site, but my representative there at least has been very reasonable, and he generally just wants to do what is best for the program, for the organizations, and for the member. And so if it's really not working out, probably it would be best for everybody for that member to be removed. I think that was every element of your question. I guess to summarize, we provide support, we try to help you solve the problem, and we can do removal if it really is what's necessary.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, Asia, it looks like we've got you one more question at least. So Serena has a follow-up question after hearing the direct service answer. Are there other AmeriCorps programs that do allow the person to provide direct service?
There are. They are not my specialty. I've only ever been involved with Vista. I feel like maybe Sarah could speak a little bit more to this if she is willing.
Yes, sorry, let me just look up that question one more time. Are there AmeriCorps programs that do allow the person to? Yes, so AmeriCorps State and National typically is a direct service program. And that could be, so we used to run the AmeriCorps Reading Corps program. And so we had 25 AmeriCorps members that tutored K through 3rd and elementary literacy interventions. And so they were directly serving the students. I've also participated in several Conservation Corps programs where they were doing conservation related work, which was direct service. If a tutor if an AmeriCorps member were to work at a food bank and do direct service there, there's a lot of opportunities for AmeriCorps State and National.
And it's kind of, I guess, a process of just looking around and seeing, one, I guess, whether you want to apply for your own grant, or two, and the easiest option is looking around to see who in Colorado is offering the services that you might be looking for.
Awesome. And Charlene's got a question. Is there a minimum or maximum number of members that an organization can apply to host?
There is not. Well, I guess the minimum is only one, which is pretty straightforward. But if you were to apply to our project and you wanted multiple members, they would each need to have their own specific role. Even if they're working kind of on the same project, they would have different roles within it. I'm going to, once we get into the application, talk, if we have time, we're getting close to 5, get into the VISTA assignment description, which is basically a work plan for the year. And so when you applied, you could apply for both positions separately, and then we would, if the applications were strong and we had like the resources to allocate to it, we could approve multiple applications. So you can apply as much as you want, and if they're strong, hopefully they would be accepted.
Asia, do you want to move into your next session of the PowerPoint?
Yes, absolutely. So it's actually not in the PowerPoint. I'm just going to walk you through the application. So let me open that up and share my screen one more time. And all right, so here is our application. The front page is just a lot of the information to help keep you grounded as you are going through the application. We have the deadlines at the top, September 1st with October 15th as the recommended first draft, because if you turn it in early, I will review it and tell you what you can do to improve your application.
Asia, real quick, sorry to interrupt. Can you zoom in just a little bit?
Oh yeah, great thinking.
Thank you.
Okay, so we also recommend that you have a conversation with me, which I kind of go over here. And then this is just the steps of the application process. So submit the application by the deadline. Our advisory committee will go over it and make the decision on who to recommend as a host site. And then we begin the onboarding process, which includes signing the MOU and the creation of recruitment documents. And then at the bottom here is all of the different components of the application. We try to make this as organized as possible, just so that you know, once you finish, you can go back to the first page and say like, yes, I have done all of these and I feel confident that I have completed this application successfully. So we'll have an information page, performance measure selection, a narrative component, a 3-year plan. Again, you're eligible for 3 years of the project. So we just want to know how your project would develop over the course of those 3 years. The VISTA assignment description, which as I said, is a work plan. And then also a budget or financial report. And then the administrative fee deposit that we talked about. That's just the first installment of the administrative fee. So sorry if you hate watching scrolling. I know my mother would be nauseous watching me do this. The first page is the information page. It's kind of a lot of questions, but it really helps us to have everything we need if we do accept you to be able to onboard you successfully. So we need your EIN. One of the most annoying parts is the zip +4, but it saves so much time on our end. If all of you just kind of take 2 minutes to look it up, it saves me from taking like half an hour to look them all up later. And then contact information for the person applying and also the supervisor. And then also, if you have a preference for whether you want your member to start in the spring or the summer, highlight which one, and then also let us know why. Because if you have an event that it really works better with one timeline, we want to prioritize getting you into that time slot. So component 2 is performance measure selection. These are the, what are they called? The focus areas that I was going over earlier. You go to the one that makes the most sense for you and then highlight whatever it is that you're able to measure. If you feel like none of these fit you, but you're like kind of close, or even if you're not kind of close, sometimes I'm really good at like finding the right angle. So don't get discouraged on this page. And if you get overwhelmed on this page, like please just feel free to call me. This is something that like if people try to do it on their own, sometimes it takes them an hour. And if they do it with me, it takes 5 to 10 minutes. So please be willing to reach out if you need help. Application component 3 is the narrative. Here's where we really dig into your project. And the whole thing is made for you to just kind of like fill it out as you go. There are page breaks between the sections, so you should be able to type and not mess up the formatting of the application. So we want to know the mission of your organization and then how that really relates to the work that you're doing and the work that the AmeriCorps member would be doing. We need to know how it contributes to the eradication of poverty because that is really our focus. And then we really need to know that you understand capacity building and that is what your member will be doing. Sustainability is important because we're putting these resources in there to ensure that you are able to get to the next level. And if you don't stay there, then it's like, it's unfortunate. We want you to be able to sustain the progress. How it impacts the community empowerment. I think we didn't talk about too much during the application, but it really is important to AmeriCorps. And supervisory capability, professional development opportunities, if you're able to offer anything to them. And this is what I was mentioning earlier, number 8, they're living at the poverty level, so anything you can do in terms of support. We don't disqualify you if you can't offer it, but if we have 2 strong applications and 1 slot left and one of them is going to significantly support their member, like that is definitely a point in their favor. And then also just like a space, if you feel like there's something that's important for us to know that you haven't had a chance to tell us about, you can include that as well. Sorry, I'm looking at questions. Again, the 9,600 is per an individual. So then we have the 3-year plan. We leave you a lot of space for this, one of these pages for each year, but you don't need to feel like you need to fill the whole thing in. Whatever amount of detail works for you, feel free to do that amount of detail. And again, I just like to reiterate again and again, like, I live and breathe this application. So if it's confusing to you, do not hesitate to talk to me, because I would rather spend 5 minutes of my time than 1 hour of your time. So yeah, the resources that you put in the first year, like training, people who are going to be there, supports, just anything that are like your inputs that go into that first year, the sorts of activities you want your member to be working on, and then what the milestones are that really show that you're making progress towards the point of your project. And then at the bottom of each year, we just have like a question that kind of gets at the progression of the project. So in year 1, we want to know that you're laying a solid foundation that you can build on in year 2, and how you're going to sustain what you have built. Year 2, the first part is the same, and then it's basically how is year 2 a bridge between year 1 and year 3. And then finally in year 3, how are you wrapping this up in a way where you are transitioning what needs to be transitioned to staff members in a way that is going to ensure that your project can continue. And we know that things change over the course of 3 years. So like, I don't know, but here's what I hope is a valid answer. Okay, we have 8 minutes left, so I'm going to do my best here. The VAD is the trickiest part of the whole application, and it's not complex, but it's hard to wrap your head around. So I wrote this full instruction page. This is the first time we're doing this application, so we haven't tested it out, but I'm hoping it makes it more clear. And the structure of the VAD is basically you need a goal. Beneath the goal are objectives that build to that goal, and then each activity should support the objective. And so I broke it down here in just like a very silly ice cream party sort of way. So for example, if your goal is to throw the best ice cream party ever in order to bring unity to the neighborhood, then an objective will be to ensure the availability of favorable ice creams for the party. Under that, the activities would be surveying the community members to determine the favorite ice creams and toppings, and soliciting donations from grocery stores. And so you can see how the activities, they're not random. When you take them together, they accomplish the objective, and then the objective directly supports the goal. So this is just for 1 year of the project. You should write the VAD for the first year, and we have time in between when you apply and when we actually use the VAD in order to refine that. So this is really just like, do your best effort, call me if you need to, basically. So I made you this template. You put the goal up here, there's spaces for objectives, and under each objective, you do the activities that really support that objective. And you can add more as needed. And again, this is one point where I really like to stress, if you feel like you don't know if you have it right, please just let me know that you are confused, because I would rather you get it right the first time than like get it wrong and then you have to send it back at the end and you have to work on it again. And that happens a lot. That is the most common reason that applications are sent back. The budget or financial report is pretty straightforward, just the most recent one you have. And then the administrative fee, we put the pricing right here. to make it really clear what you need to do. And then if you just, when you're ready to send that, reach out to me. I'll make sure that I invoice you so that our finance department is expecting the deposit. So with that, I will take a couple of minutes for questions, like 3 or 4 minutes. Do we have questions to answer?
Yeah, it looks like we've got one from Michelle. On the application, I saw wording that organizations can waive the 2nd or 3rd year of the member. Is that an advantage or a disadvantage on your application?
It is a disadvantage on the application because we really want to make sure that you are doing something that will be sustainable. And we also, just kind of from like our time resources perspective, like we need to go through the application, like this whole process that we're doing right now for that slot again, if you don't do 3 years. So I would say make your best attempt to have a 3-year plan. And then if you get into it after you're accepted and you realize 3 years isn't working for you, let me know at that point. But when you're applying, definitely try to think 3 years in the future. Thank you. That was a really good question.
And then Morgan is also asking, can you have the same vista for multiple years of your 3-year plan?
Yes, as long as you want that and the member also wants that, we love it. Habitat for Humanity, Greeley Weld Habitat for Humanity, I believe they're finishing up the 3rd year with the same member and hiring her onto staff when she finishes. Like she loved it there, they loved her, and she just, members can do 5 years. Programs can have 3 years, and she basically finished out her allowance, they finished out their allowance, and yeah, now they're hiring her on, so it definitely happens.
Perfect. And then it looks like this last question here from Susan is actually more for the attendees regarding Summer Vista that United Way is hosting right now, who has experience in emergency management. So if any of the folks listening to the call is interested in having our Vista write an emergency response plan for your organization, you can reach out to us and we can help to facilitate that process. And it looks like that is all of the questions that we've got here in the Q&A box, although I know there's, I think, a poll that Sarah wanted us to launch to get some more information again from our audience. Are we ready for that?
Let me stop sharing. Yeah, that would be great.
All right.
Yeah, so the final poll, what types of capacity building projects do you need AmeriCorps member support for? And please select all that apply. Definitely reach out to Azia. She has her contact information, the PowerPoint slides, which we'll share with everyone. And then if you are interested in shared services, HR, grant writing, graphic design, or even the VISTA program, feel free to reach out to me as well. And we'd love to talk more to you about what we have to offer. Are we getting some answers in, Morgan?
Yeah, it looks like we've got a few folks answering. We can leave it open here for a couple of more seconds in case anybody else is still trying to get that response in. All right, go ahead and end that. So there's our results.
Awesome. Looks like program management and expanding programs. Great. Well, that's great to know. I think Azia can definitely help you with that. And thanks to everyone who's been here today. We're really excited about launching this NoCO AmeriCorps project. I'm happy to work with United Way of Weld County, and thanks Azia for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's really exciting to see so many people in attendance, and I'm looking forward to hearing from folks.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.